facto chair of this advisory board so far. And we want to go around and introduce the voting board members, and I'll introduce you to a couple key people on the administration side working on this project. Representative Miguel Garcia.
Buenos días de Dios, Garcia, which includes the southern part of South Broadway, the Barenas, across the river into Atrisco, and some western precincts. And it's good being here this morning to kind of look at the rail yards and all the progress that's being made. Just looking forward to the tour.
Representative Garcia is one of our longest standing members of the advisory. Dorothy, introduce yourself.
Dorothy Chavez, board representative from Borales Neighborhood Association.
Hi, I'm Lee Befried. I'm the president of the Wheels Museum.
Good morning, Alex Romero.
Good morning, Jay Remby with ULI.
Good morning, Eddie Garcia, South Broadway Neighborhood Association.
Good morning, Lawrence Rail with the City of Albuquerque.
And let's see, we have some other folks from the administration as well. Karen?
Hello, Karen Iverson with the City Metropolitan Redevelopment Agency.
And our guide today is going to be Ed Adams. Ed, introduce yourself.
Ed Adams, City of Albuquerque project manager for the site.
Ed has ushered this thing this far, and it's no small task, but we're fortunate to have him on the project. Those who don't know Ed, he's served the city in all sorts of capacities in the past, and effectively, I think you were the project manager as well for the Isotopes Park, one of the big blockbuster kind of projects. But fortunate to have Ed on board. Somebody really knows how to get the work done. We've got members of the James construction team who's working on the project right now, but Ed is gonna lead our tour today. We do have a quorum, but we are not conducting any action items. There's no action items on the agenda today. It's all informational items, but we will circle back as a board just at the end for any group discussion. But Diane's going to be filming it. Diane Dolan, my former policy analyst and now capital projects manager at the city council. And we also have Petra Morris from the city council. And Nathan Molina, who is my policy analyst. So that you're on.
Counselor, thank you. I'm going to take my mask off so they can hear me. I have been vaccinated twice, so probably low risk. Okay. I'm going to take you for a tour. Going to show you some of the stuff that we have completed and some of the things that we're working on. You know, if you haven't been out here for a little while, it wasn't that long ago. This was gravel, right where we're standing. Okay, so we've got paved parking lot. There's 195 parking spaces currently here. The courtyard is, we did this a year ago. It's also a drainage pond. Takes care of all the drainage for the entire site. So we've got a lot of things taken care of. We're going to go over to the tender repair shop first. This building is 18,000 square feet, 30-foot high ceiling. The roof has been redone, and we can go see it from the inside. And then I'm going to walk you through some of the work that we're doing and some of the work that we finished. We're going to take a lap around this whole site. And anybody has any questions, ask me while we're doing this. And let's go ahead and get started. We're going to go right over here inside the tender repair. So if we kind of stay somewhat together, Jane's has suspended a lot of their work so we can wander around without interfering or being in the way. So we're going to go ahead and let's go into the tender repair shop. Yes. A little bit about the remediation, the environmental remediation. The environmental. So one of the first things we did is we took care of remediating all of the soil. There was a fair bit of lead and a few other things in the soil in here, and all of that has been remediated to either residential or commercial standards. The state has reviewed the documents and approved it all, so we're in really good shape. We had to dig out quite a bit of material back here, so we made that a pond. That's our detention pond back there, and we had to excavate it anyway. So we've remediated the soil here all throughout this parking lot. There's just quite a bit of lead in the soil here. I think we took out 11,000 cubic yards of material, replaced what we needed to replace. If you see all these rocks, all these large rocks, all of those rocks we dug up. They were on site. This was originally lower. The rail yards folks actually filled this about 4 feet, which was actually kind of a good thing because the contaminated soil was in that 4-foot layer. There was nothing below that. So when we found stuff, we only had to go down 4 feet to get it cleaned up. So that's all been taken care of. We've done this parking lot. City crews actually did a lot of it. The millings that we're standing on, a great deal of them came out of lead and coal 2 summers ago. And we repurposed them. Anything else, Lawrence? Yeah, it's a big deal. It's cleaned up. This site is ready for development to occur. And you can see the buildings are starting to come along here. And we're getting them stabilized and the roofs and everything taken care of. So let's go ahead and go over to the tender repair. We go for a little walk, and anybody has questions, ask me. You can just go right over here to the sidewalk. This concrete pad was the old sheet metal shop. It was a wood structure that was in very, very poor condition and in danger of falling down. So we removed the structure, we left the foundation. That's the original foundation for the sheet metal shop, which we removed here. And that's when we looked at this space and going, what an amazing space, let's do something with it. And that's how we came up with putting the courtyard in.
Are any of the parts available
It is-
left over any of the workings of the in this building?
Yes, we saved quite a few timbers and some of the tracks because they had tracks for the sheet metal that went through there, and we saved a bunch of it and stored in the building back.
Like
And then-
cabinets?
All right, let's go ahead and go. This is the tender repair building. It's 18,000 square feet and it's 35 feet to the bottom of the trusses. So if you look up, the roof has been completely redone. It is reconstructed the way it was originally constructed. It's totally roof and it's 3 layers thick. And it has fire retardant lumber. It's been sprayed and sealed. And the roof is actually finished. And originally, once we saw this wood and it's so beautiful, we managed to convince the shippo to allow us to leave it in natural wood color rather than the gray that you see in the center. We had already done some of that, so we just finished staining it in gray, and then the outside product is finished, and it is sealed, and it will stay just like that. And we have the same approval from the shippo, the natural exposed wood in the boiler shop. This is done with modern TPO roof, so it's a 30-year roof. And you shouldn't have to worry about it for quite a while. You can step into here. This is a boiler shop. It's the second largest building on the property. It's 58,000 square feet, and it's far side of the 60-foot high ceiling. As you can see, there isn't any roof on it. All of the roof has been removed. You can still see this picking up debris. All of the old roof has been removed. We're starting over here, putting on the new roof. And we can go in just a little bit. The wood blocks, the creosote treated blocks have all been removed. We saved, I think, 3,000 square feet worth of blocks for repurposing some other day in the building. They're stored back in the machine shop. And you can see some of them are right there. See it, but we're not going to wander out too far. But if you would like to, you're welcome to step under. Out here and look up and see the absence. First, on this roof, you can see these pitched atriums here. They're all glass. So the glass has been removed. The frames are going to be rehabbed, and then the new glass will be put back into all of these skylights for natural light into the building. It's pretty big. It's fabulous, but not having. I like that roof deck. That's really nice. Yeah, the rest of the roof deck will be that just a natural wood. You will. Yes, it was a battle, but we got the shipbuilder to agree because it was just so impressive to see the natural wood. We put it up here, and we did get them to agree on these buildings. And you can see we're getting started over here, putting tongue and groove. Right. And they're going to go. They're going to wrap it around.
How long will it take to put the roof on?
It would take me the rest of my life.
Well,
James is
I
probably
can't
gonna
do it
have done in the fall.
in the fall. It looks gorgeous. Thank you.
But now, what about the firehouse?
There's a couple of dumpsters of debris.
Oh, yes, yes. Okay, and there's more. It's roll off over there. Where the roof was all dropped into the building, right? And then it was cleaned up and removed. So yes, the dumpsters, all the wood debris is from the roof. And so are those over there. You can see they're cleaning it up now. We just finished dropping the roof in last week. Any questions on the boiler? Let's go back out. We'll go inside there. That building actually is going to be heated and cooled. You can go back over, watch yourself, and go underneath. When we go out, there's a table set up over in the courtyard that has bottled water. If anybody wants one, just grab one. Compliments of James. This is a roofing company here. It's a sub to James. Give me a minute. Granny Corps is doing all the work. I think James is sort of actually decking it. And then there's another one that's the TPO. James is doing just that.
Yeah, I can tell they're really.
Now you're gonna watch. Okay. Actually, here, they're working on sheet. Okay, all right, this building is the flu shop. It's 8,000 square feet, and it's 22 feet from the deck to the ceiling here. It is the smallest of the buildings on site. All of these windows were removed. The frames were so rusted and decayed and had asbestos caulking in them that needed to be remediated. It was just a much better plan to remove the old frames and put new glazing in. They're thermal, double pane thermal treated. This building will have a CO. This building will be heated. It's set up. It will have a CO when we get done here middle of the summer. I'm sorry, certificate of occupancy. So it can actually be used and inhabited. Yes. So as you can see, we're still working in progress. We've got sprinkler system in here. We're going to have power. We're going to have bathrooms in this building. There's still a lot of work to do. Get it cleaned up, get all the concrete remediated. This building's 100 years old, as the rest of them are. So we're doing a few structural repairs to get the building taken care of. The roof is redone. It's a TPO roof as well. This is a concrete building, so we don't have the wood structure that we had in the other two buildings. But it's coming along rather nicely.
This is massive. That concrete is just massive. It's so pretty. So pretty. Who's the manufacturer of it?
I don't recall.
Yeah, they're really.
They're
beautiful.
local.
They're really beautiful.
They're Albuquerque firm.
Yeah.
Albuquerque.
Yeah. You know what's really cool about this building is it is not only a size that we can use as it relates to just operations.
Yeah.
So one of the thoughts for us is potentially moving in the MR program here and film office on an interim basis, so that we have some presence on the site. We can have folks on the site as we start developing the rest of the place. But also just from a purely just security perspective, having more activity here, I think helps generate an interest that we want to get the rest of the site going. So we're really looking forward to this. And the windows are just amazing.
So we can go ahead, we can walk on down to the back here, and then we're gonna go out the door. These pads are big range rooms, so they could lift parts and move them around. You see there was structural supports right here to hold up. Everything in the rail yards was pretty heavy. This one actually has. Yes, yeah, structural. This little building here was a 1960 add-on, but it was a nice mechanical room, so we kind of kept it, even though we could have removed it, but we kept it. And those doors are our fire emergency access doors to get out. Our bathrooms here and some of our mechanical rooms. And on the other side of that wall is the boiler shop. Behind me, this is a fire rated wall required for code in order to get our occupancy of this. The boiler shop, which we saw without the roof on it, the other side. So these buildings were connected because they would move equipment in and out, train parts between the two buildings. So these doors are still here. They'll be here where you can get in between the two buildings. And if we ever want to join them, structurally, this is framed for large roll-up door if we ever need to use the buildings together. But it is a firewall to protect this building and the occupants. All right, we're gonna go out this door right here. There is a step, so be careful. We're gonna talk about some of the things we've done here now.
This is where we're gonna pitch pennies.
Let's do it.
Wow.
Penny, guy.
All right.
As you can see, concrete here is all new. So it was in pretty bad shape. It didn't drain. It held storm water in here. And this was a perfect utility corridor for these two buildings. So you can see we've got gas lines in both buildings. We have water all the way through here for these buildings. We have storm drain, and we have conduits for telecommunications and future uses for these buildings. So all of these utilities that are in this corridor were recently put in. We just finished this project February, something like that. So all of these utilities go out this corridor, and we're going to go this way. And then I'll show you what we've done with utilities for these other larger buildings. Then we can go ahead and kind of walk.
So before we go on, let me just say one more thing on behalf of Ed's engineering background really has helped tremendously in this particular project, because when you think about how to get utilities to both of these major buildings, and quite frankly, what we came up with, and he'll show you here in a minute, we were able to run all the utilities to the transfer tables. So now we have access for services for all of this building for the boiler shop. And it was, the SHPO let us do that work. And so Ed's going to talk to you about that. But that's a good point about having someone who understands buildings, because now we've got them all serviced, right, with just this one corridor. And it really has been, it saved us a ton of money in terms of operate.
It saved us millions of dollars, literally millions of dollars, to use this corridor and then the transfer table to take all the utilities out. So it was really a good thing for the city that we were able to get the SHPO to reach it. Yeah, Gabe?
You got the gas?
Yeah, the gas. This is the gas line here for both buildings. Water.
Do you have
Oh,
an access place?
sanitary sewers in here as well.
Do you have an access place if you have to go in and repair anything?
Yeah, I got the repair.
An access space.
Oh, yes, absolutely. It can be, you can drive lots of vehicles just right into here. We back concrete trucks up right back here when you see the
Yeah,
transfer
I
table.
mean, like where you have to do the conduit or any of that stuff repair down here? Is there any access space, or does this have to be?
We have vaults to access some of the utilities, but if you had a failure, you'd have to take concrete out.
Really, between these utilities and the roofs that we're putting in, I mean, these buildings are what they call who's the real estate expert, Jay? A cold dry box, a cold dry shell.
Getting there.
Yeah.
Some of them are a little ventilated yet.
Yeah,
They haven't dealt with windows.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, this is an
We talked
amazing
about
amount.
the whole concept was to preserve the buildings, right? I mean,
Right.
just so that we could make sure that we had them available. With the roofs being put in place now that we're working on, and all the infrastructure that we were able to get in, plus the federal grant that we got and the work. Look, this north end of the site here is not quite at a point where, a developer can move in, but it's much further ahead and in a much better place. And, when we first started with this administration, one of the comments that I think Jay Remby made and several of the folks that know this business better than a lot of us is that, look, no one's going to come to this site if we have to deal with the environmental issues or if we have to deal with some of the structural issues, because these buildings are so massive that it just doesn't pencil out for a developer to just come in and just, take over these facilities. So our goal was, I think, very straightforward, was preserve the buildings, get the infrastructure in place so that we can make sure that that whenever we do put this out for for request for potential proposals for taking care of the environmental issues on the table for this end of the project. And so I think we're almost at a point where the next big steps are going to be is, what do we want these uses to be? And how do we begin to work with, with folks like Jay and other people, all the developers in the community about, the uses and what do we want it to, how do we want to make it all come together? We think that there should be some public spaces in here for the public and for the community and for the neighborhood, but there's also some opportunities to bring in some cool businesses that might help create some synergy and some, and some good opportunities to maybe be the catalyst for bigger and more important buildings like the mechanical shop and the boiler shop, because those are huge. But I guess my point to all of you is that as a group collectively and to the leadership of the council and the mayor, I think we're really in a really good place. We've done a really nice job with, and trust me, it's been a ton of work that's getting everything coordinated, but we're here. And I think it's really an opportunity for us after this pandemic is over to, quite frankly, pat each other, each one of you in the back and say, hey, this is a great thing that we've done for this area. And this is to make sure that we go into and we still have a lot more work to do. We still have a lot of the environmental work that's being done on the other side, on the south side. That we're doing now is current. So it's not like we're ignoring that. We're doing some work. But then as we start moving, south, with getting all the buildings stabilized, right, and getting them to the point where we can use them, then that's the next big tranche of I think public money that we'll need to spend to get those done. And look, I think it's beginning to take hold. I mean, those folks are interested in. That's why I wanted to bring in city government offices in here, just to get it going, right? Just to get some stuff going. I've been working with CNM on this. They've got some ideas here. Hopefully, in the next couple of months, we'll get some better sense of where they are. If they start putting their investment into this building, now we've got these two activated. It now becomes even more attractive for others to look at the other side. So I just want to say that, I think everybody's done a great deal of work. The mayor's excited as all get out. He loves coming out here. And I know the councilors and Councilor Benson with his leadership, our legislators, we thank all our legislators for all the support that you guys have given us, representative and the funding that we got, because here it is. It's put to use. And as my friend here knows, we've almost spent it all.
There's no almost, brother.
Well, yeah, I wanted to really give a tip of the hat to our members of this board, this advisory board, who are in the legislature. Introduced Representative Garcia, but also Senator T.C. Pino, former Representative Rick Mura. We've just had the strongest support from our delegation. Other members of the board who haven't been on quite as long, Senator Padilla and Representative Andres Romero. But we've had that really strong support from the legislature. And again, when this mayoral administration came in, things really changed because Mayor Keller said early on this was a priority of his, that we really jumpstart the project, and they have come through. Thanks to Lawrence as well. We're very fortunate to have Lawrence, somebody who also knows how to get things built along with that.
Yes.
I forgot we have power as well.
Oh, and I neglected to introduce one member who's been on the team for a long time. Gabe, introduce yourself. Oh, okay, Gabe, you guys. Gabe is with Metropolitan Redevelopment, has worked with us this project over the years and knows as much about it as anyone.
Yeah, Gabe and Karen and her staff all really been.
So they'll all be here in this nice office. So
All right, let's go ahead and go south. Let's go out to the transfer table.
It is. Yeah.
That will be in the south.
Get the installation antenna. We're gonna start this whole system.
It's a blacksmith shop. Rick building is a blacksmith shop. Building on the right is the boiler shop that we were in a while ago that we're redoing the roof. Oh, it's trash. It's just all. It's just. I understand. So this is the transfer tank. This is where they used to take the trains from the machine shop into the board shop on this table. This table over here actually moves, and they could run trains across it. So the utilities that are in between the two buildings all come out and into the bottom of here. So all of those utilities are in this first bay. They run all the way out to the street. So we have water, sanitary sewer, storm drain, gas, small diameter water line as well as a large one, and conduits for future use are in that vault. Well, part of it's going to be fiber for the buildings, but we've got 8 conduits in there for future. We'll probably use 3 or 4 of them that we know of, but future use. We don't know what we're going to do with these buildings, how they're going to be built. The water line that we put in here is much larger. It's a 12-inch. The water line that feeds it's a 6. But we don't know what these buildings are going to be. Yeah. So the street
infrastructure may have to be
we may,
upgraded depending on what the future use.
depending on what the future use is, we have large transmission line, I think, in 4th. So we might have to go get water someday in the future, depending on what goes on. If a 6-inch is adequate, then we're fine. And we have sewer stub outs all along the way at points where these buildings can tie in. That fire hydrant right there is live. So we now have fire protection for this area back. So we're in really good shape. And we can walk down this loop around and feel free to look inside the boiler and any of the doors as we go. Kind of see what's going on.
I fill up the transfer table with water and make things Olympic size swimming. What do you think?
It'll be a little shallow.
Beautiful fountain
Yeah, fountain or so.
No
Yeah,
diving.
with
No
some,
diving.
with some little bridges and stuff.
Yeah.
So Ed, is the plan to take care of this roof too?
At some point, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, the roof
But not
needs
just-
to be addressed, but let's call it an unfunded need at the
Yeah.
moment.
So we have enough funds for this one.
This roof, yes. And we're out of money.
No, you've done it, man. It's amazing what you guys accomplished. It's just-
Very, very pleased with.
The fire marshal-
I like that.
No, I did about 5 fire.
Plus the buildings are gonna be sprinklers and occupied.
Yeah, but that opens up the possibility of development, whereas without a fire hydrant and fire protection, nothing's gonna happen.
You can go ahead and walk on down. These roof drains, these are the original drains that drain the water off of the roof. We're leaving them. And if you look in that pit, you can see another 4-inch pipe, which is a storm drain that goes out here and ties in. So the storm drain system for this site is all in place. So these drains, when they get closer to finishing up the roof, will be tied. Each one of these drains will be tied in, and it will go out to the storm drain that's in here and out to the city storm drain system. And we can keep on going. So you can see deep here, the concrete, 3.5 inches. That's where the blocks, all creosote treated wood blocks were in all of this floor, which deadened sound. And it was a sacrificial floor that if they dropped something on it, damaged it, they just put new blocks in. So that's all been removed because creosote treated wood is somewhat of a hazardous stuff. People breathe. So it's all been removed. It's gone. This is the yes. This is the original concrete, and you can see yes, because of the wood, it was sacrificial in it. Train parts are big.
Santa Fe Railroad probably bought creosote by the proverbial trainload.
Yes. Early on, the locomotives weighed about 90,000 pounds. And then when they moved into the diesel era, the train moved into about 120,000 pounds. Crane here is 150 ton crane. Sure. All right, we can go ahead and go on down. We'll walk back around to the courtyard.
Explain what this is.
Don't get rid of these, by the way. This is
I
very
have
important.
no intention of
Good
getting rid
boy,
of these.
Good boy.
If it's not rather obvious what this is,
Yeah. We want 'em here.
there were very few women on this site until the more modern era. But this would be a urinal, if you will. So the workers didn't have to go very far. And they're all along. They're no longer in service.
So don't get any idea.
Plumbing fixture's still in there.
Excuse me, you guys, just turn your back for.
It would be neat if we did get a service.
Wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It would be actually-
Put them all around downtown.
Yes. Good idea.
So these are pits here that when they would bring the trains in, that they could actually get underneath the locomotives and work on the bottom side of them, or what these pits are for. And straight across is the tender repair shop, which is the first one we went in where we've redone the roof. That's the building straight across. In order to use it, you have to fill it in, make the floor level and safe. What if- Not saying- Yes. We have left all of the rails where they are in the buildings, where we've redone some of the fronts, like in the blacksmith shop. There's tracks that come out of there. We've left them. We put bricks around them. And you can look at them when we go over there. But yes, all the rails we've left. They used to where they actually would spray to paint the locomotives. This bay and that one were just the large paintings for the locomotives. So this is
Yeah, I love this area. Yeah, it's really coming around and it's turned around so much.
So all of the utilities that we put in between the buildings and in here all come through this wall. So all the utilities come through here, and you can see our vaults, our sanitary sewer manhole. The sewer goes down across in front of the machine shop and then out to the street. Water goes out, sanitary storm goes out. So all of those are in place and connected and operational. The gas line is not finished yet, but there it is. That'll have to be connected. And the vault to future conduits and conduits for fiber for these buildings. This is where all the utility stuff is kind of just finished up. So other than a couple of tie-ins, pretty much taken care of. Yes, ma'am.
We're desperate for 83 phase power. Is there any hope of
There's you have three-phase power over in front of the blacksmith shop.
Yeah.
At some point when there's enough funding to do the tender repair, there'll be three-phase brought in up at the tender repair. Right now, we don't have any design or anything underway for three-phase. My charge has been focused on getting the north, getting the environmental taken care of, getting the buildings stabilized, and get them ready for future development.
Right. Train cars are waiting to come home?
All right, we can go around this fence and walk right back over to the courtyard.
there's the vacation, 20 feet of right of way on First Street, Hazeldine to.
Yeah, well,
See, there was a question
Karen
about
could
the
tell us about the,
RFP for some of these outer buildings. So it's this building over here, the furthest one next to the little red roof behind the brick building. So that one, we got a proposal for an immersive experience, art experience based on the rail yards. And if you'll remember, that was a request for expressions of interest, which meant it was a very conceptual proposal. And since then, they have submitted a full creative concept, done a lot of community engagement, and put together a business plan. And I just received that last week, and I will say that I am very impressed. Their story ties in a lot of elements about the rail yards. They've connected with families in the neighborhood and sort of got their permission to use their stories as elements of this art experience. And their business plan was developed by a gentleman who was a former CFO at Meow Wolf and is very robust and well done. So we're looking forward to proceeding with negotiating a lease agreement with them for that building.
behind me, you can see the scaffolding, which is how the workers get to the area. So all the materials, you can see all the wood that's piled up over here. This is the decking that we're gonna be starting on, actually starting now. Tell you the lumber put up on. Okay. And I think we can just finish, go around and Counselor, you can have your discussion. I think that.
Very, very attractive work. Yeah.
But it does have.
For the board members, we're going to just quickly go through some of, we did have a brief agenda for the meeting that was prepared before we decided to have the tour. So I'll go ahead and try to guide us through that. We'll put off our approval of the minutes from December 2nd meeting till our next board meeting. But what we have on the agenda today, we finished our tour. We're going to do a quick report on capital funding from the CIP and state capital outlay. I think CIP was, you remember, Lawrence, how much we had in there for this time around? How much?
2.5.
2.5 million was in the city's capital budget that was recently passed. And then we got a little bit of funding, I think, from the state, not on the level of the previous time around.
I think the preliminary review of the state appropriation was like $500,000 or something like that.
Okay. So that's pretty much the report on that, unless Representative Garcia, you want to report anything? Yeah, I mean, I think we, of course, the state really kicked in 2 years back with 7 million. So that was very helpful. And that's a lot of the work we see today. And then we did have, we put on the agenda because everybody's asking anyway. This is one of the south part of this site is one of the places that have been discussed as a possible location for the soccer stadium. And full disclosure, I've met with the folks from New Mexico United. They love the site, and so maybe a little update for everyone on that, Lawrence, if you could.
So we have for those of you maybe have kept up with it, we put out a request for proposals from some national firms to come in and do a couple of things for the city. One is to evaluate sites potentially for a soccer multi-use facility, if you will, and also to give us some financial structures in terms of how these things are financed, and then ultimately to give us some information about how you can pay for the cost of operations. So first part of their scope is to look at sites and to look at venues across the country that have a lot of similar demographics to Albuquerque and size of the population, and then to look at the team that we have. We have a USL team. So in the world of soccer, the MSL teams are like your NBA basketball teams. They're the top of the line. The USL teams are the next level below that. And so we have a USL team. And so what we've asked them to do is look at other facilities that have been built across the country and to then look at what the size of the footprint would be for a building facility. And then come and assess some of the areas that were reviewed by the previous study that was done under the Berry administration, which they did a study for if you all remember, they had a team called Mexico Soul that was here. And so there were some sites that they had already evaluated, and so we asked them to look at those. So the long and the short is they're in about halfway through their study. They came down a couple of weeks ago and they looked at the site here south of the mechanical shop, just to get a sense of two things. One, is the site big enough in terms of its footprint, what the city owns, and then secondly, are there any other issues associated with the site that need to be evaluated, whether it's the water and sewer systems or in this case you know, the proximity to the rail line and those kinds of factors. They've looked at, so that's the one site they've looked at. They're looking at 3 or 4 different sites in the downtown core. And that was one of the requirements that we asked them to look at is we don't want the stadium to be located, you know, too far from the downtown core simply because we want to use it as part of the revitalization of the downtown area. So they're in the middle of that review. They'll come out with their report sometime, hopefully latter part of May, early June. And they'll give us their sense of the sites and what each site has, et cetera. Now keep in mind the other pieces to this is parking and accessibility to public transportation, whether or not the sites sit on a major roadway facility so that, you know, I mean, we're looking at probably somewhere between an 8 to 15,000 square foot or sitting facility, if you will, that can seat that many people, just so that we're right in the USL sort of sweet spot. There are some stadiums that have been built in other parts of the country that are around the 8,000 seat capacity. Then there's the bigger ones that are up at the 15. So we're looking at somewhere in between those numbers and see what makes sense and what's financially feasible to put in. But look, it's still pretty early, but they did look at this site. The good news is the site is big enough for a field and for a facility. The challenge with the site is that it's pretty tight, and what we need to sort of have the conversation with the council about is we just don't want to plop in the stadium and not have any kind of economic impact for the community and not have any other ways for the community to sort of grow around the stadium. We want it to be a catalyst for development and for growth and for opportunities for jobs, et cetera, for the neighborhoods and wherever it sits. So those are the kinds of things that are being evaluated as they move through the process. But, you know, again, there's lots of, as we all know, I mean, just being candid here, there's lots of challenges with that site, mostly because of the historic preservation issues associated with the turntable, the fact that it sits right next to a rail line where it has some potential issues that may impact the facility. Although I don't see them being showstoppers, but still they're all things we've got to consider in the evaluation of the site. So, but again, it's a pretty tight site just from the perspective. And of course, at the end of the day, look, straight up, you know, we also want to make sure that this is compatible with what the neighborhood wants to live with and wants to have. And that's an important issue because these things, it's probably going to be an open air concept kind of with an overhang, if you will, that will shade the bleachers, if you will, or the seating areas. But for the most part, it's not a dome. It's an open kind of concept. So a lot of things to still think about and review, but this was one of the sites, and so we'll start probably having more public conversations about this when they get a little further down the evaluation process. What's that? Well, that's what we those are all the factors that we're sort of reviewing. It may not, the bridge structure that's there could be a challenge. The interesting thing is, if you measure from the machine shop to the bridge, it's big enough for the facility to fit in. But then you end up, like I said, a tight facility. It's not, or site. It doesn't have a lot of room for a lot of the other things that might come with an opportunity to build a redevelopment project of this magnitude. So, but as we move through the process, we'll have more conversations about those pieces of it.
With our neighborhood, also, our concern is noise.
Sure.
We have a lot of elderly folks that live in both neighborhoods, and the rail yards has functions as it is right now.
Yeah.
It's overwhelming with noise.
Well, that's a good point. That's why I was just made sure you all can appreciate that it's an open facility. So that is one of the issues is the noise, the traffic.
And traffic.
Yeah.
Everybody wonders where they're going to park.
Right, and the impact to it. So all of those are things that they're evaluating the how close are they to the parking structures in the downtown area. Do we have can we use the rail runner and then use the rail runner stations in the corridor to bring people in and out of the stadium, if you will, kind of concepts. So there's all kinds of ways to sort of mitigate some of that. But then there's also the fact that we've got to evaluate it to make sure it fits And we'll have those conversations as we get that information, for sure.
Place for magnets or,
Right.
but they don't come to the area and at least you never, go by the. That's a big problem.
Sure. Look, that's why we want to have this conversation, just have this evaluation. But as we get closer to making those kinds of, or presenting that information, we'll certainly be talking to our for sure around the site, wherever the sites are. And there's 3 or 4 sites all around the downtown.
And yeah, speaking of the neighborhoods, both neighborhoods, South Broadway and Maryland, that was the one thing that I said to Mr. Trevisan right off the bat. I'm not going to be supporting it if we can't satisfy. And he seemed to understand that. He I don't want to speak for him, but he talked about being very careful about the on their hours and obviously the issue of access. Get through. So I think they're aware of it. But just wanted to, just kind of clear the air on that, that nothing firm in any way, but this is one of the sites that they were.
And what we did is we basically checked a plan built. So it's not that there aren't that many pieces of land in the downtown area that have that much that much acreage to be able to build this. So they're looking at all the open spaces. And obviously, that one's open, but all the points you all made are points that we're going to take into consideration, making sure that we're doing this.
Peter Trevisani came to see me several times, and he finally said to me, this is not a good site for me. And he understood the historic character of it, the turntable, Wheels Museum, the noise, the traffic. But one thought comes to mind. Would there be any thought of buying the Burlington South? I know that's been on the table for something like that. It wouldn't interfere with the history, with the rail heritage, with the tourism that we're trying to do, or really the neighborhoods moving down farther south, pointing the one direction on the Burlington. It's just a thought. Yeah.
Next, we wanted just a quick update on 2nd Street and the planned improvements on 2nd Street.
Here at DRC right now, we were expecting our comments for DRC this afternoon.
That's the city's technical committee.
Yes, that is the design review committee that capital projects have to be vetted through. So the design is moving along nicely. As soon as we know what our comments are from the DRC, we're going to make a submittal to SHPO for their review. Basically, it's consistent with what we've shown you before. The cross sections are basically the same. We are taking into account the location of the pathway and the landscaping consistent with a roundabout here, so we wouldn't have any sacrificial stuff. We'll probably add some gravel just to fill in some gaps, but it's moving along. We're struggling financially, all projects. Make it nice, and now we have to dial it back to what we. But it's looking very good. It's moving along. I don't know how long it's going to take us to ship it. I'm expecting that to probably take. It usually takes the ship 2 or 3 weeks before they look at our submittals. So as soon as we get our DRC information today, we'll take care of that, incorporate it, move it up to SHPO. And I'm hopeful that we get some comments back from SHPO in May. And we'll try to finalize this. Start getting ready to advertise.
Thanks. Yeah, and we can. I think we posted those preliminary drawings on the website.
Yeah, the cross sections are basically the same. So it's the speed table, if you will, at Santa Fe. Pumps a little further around the roundabout all help. Roundabout's not part of the project. It's not. But we're incorporating all of those things, landscaping, and I'm trying to fit in a very wide sidewalk. I mean, we have some challenges with building locations and getting through, but we're trying to have a nice wide sidewalk, good vegetation, and we're also taking into account where future accesses are going to be, particularly down at the transfer table, because it lines up with Santa Fe, and obviously that's going to be an access point in the future, and we're considering that in the design. It's compatible. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, so thinking about we needing to change the water line on Second, wouldn't it be better to do that first before we do the renovation? Because it's happened in the past, we've done that on temp, we can did the, we paid it and all that, and then they have to turn it all up.
The 6-inch line that's in Second Street is not going to be going anywhere. We're already tied into it, so the water system is fed by it. If in the future they need more than 6-inch water, which fire suppression would require that, just the size of the buildings, they're going to have to go west to get more water. There's a transmission line, so most likely sometime in the future, I could guess, they may have to run a line out to 4th Street if they need more than 6 inches of line size. So I think we're fine, just the way we are. We're already tied in, so we're good for quite a while. Until we get to fire suppression for the big buildings, we have all the water we need for bathrooms and that kind of thing. We're fine for a long time. Anything that they do, it's not going to be north-south.
So that update, and last item we did put on the agenda, request from VIVA and the museum, talking about their interest, their future. VIVA, you have that.
Well, I'm thrilled to be with you all today. It means the world to me. And I'm so grateful for the help of Councilor Benton and the state legislature and the city and Lawrence and everyone who's here to help so much to make this project, which I adore, come to fruition. I remember very, very clearly sitting down with the council and Mayor Benton about 12 years ago, and we had $2 million in state. As you know, we put together $8.5 million to save this property and for the city to buy it. And I'm very happy and proud to tell you that the Wheels Museum has become very successful. We have about $4 million of exhibits and artifacts now. Silver Iris, we have other things. We're working with many other organizations. I met with the Dean of Fine Arts at UNM last week. I will give a presentation to all the deans next week. We're working with AED. Several museums have contacted us who want to work with us. Rail Heritage Tourism is coming along. We have APRICO and PRCA who want to bring additional train cars here. So we're doing many, many projects with other groups and with ourselves. We have a wonderful cadre of volunteers. We have several new interactive exhibits in the building. My pitch to you today is we need the blacksmith, we need the boiler shop and the this building here, the tender shop. We are anticipating the hope of, let's say, other museums, UNM, CNM, and making really a world-class kind of an exposition center for education, for tourism. And I know it's early, and I know there's no heat in here, and I know we're not ready, but I want to make my pitch first that I think that the Wheels Museum and attendant operation should be here next to the parking lot to be a center for education and culture and history and future technology for New Mexico. So that's my hope, that's my work, that's my dream. I would love to have had you come to Wheels today. We're very thankful. We're doing our $170,000 heat work right now, so it says no entrance in the building. But thanks to Ed and everyone who has helped with that. I would love to work with anyone who's interested in trying to develop further these ideas and these possibilities for the city and for the state of New Mexico, with anyone who's interested in collaborating.
Thanks.
Please
Leva.
keep me posted.
Any questions for Leva? And, of course, the As everybody on this advisory board knows, we do have uh, a site development plan that's operational. So any kind of changes to use within that plan, the process.
Sure.
With planning commission. But procedurally, what have to happen.
Oh, I'd like to mention one other lovely thing. About 4 years ago, I was at the blacksmith shop with my little booth for Wheels Museum, and a couple came over, very nice, and I said, "What do you do?" And they said, "We write history books." So I said, "Why don't you write a book about the Albuquerque rail yard?" And they did so, and it's just been published. So if anyone is interested in this book called Overhaul, which is about our story here, we now have this book available. We're happy to have it. Richard and Shirley Flint wrote.
All right. Any other comments? I think that's concludes our agenda. We appreciate everybody coming out today, and it's informative for the public as well. You have to see it on a little screen.
It's very informative. It's great.
Nice to see them. Be
Thanks.
prepared.
All right. Well, that concludes our meeting. Thanks, everybody.
Thank
Have
you
a
so
safe
much.
day.
Thank you.